is Kelly. I am a belly dancer out of Houston, Texas, and I've also spent the last 15 years working in the field of corporate learning and development, helping people to improve their careers by learning new professional skills. Learning is something I'm very passionate about, and I tend to see a lot of the same concerns and issues about learning coming from my corporate clients as I do from my belly dancing students. So as a dancer, do you struggle with learning choreography, or do you go to workshops and you think, I think I've got this, and then 5 minutes later it's completely gone out of your head? Do you struggle with learning rhythms, with learning names of dances, with learning geography of where our dance comes from? Well, today we are going to explore ways for you to hack your belly dancing brain so that you are able to recall information more easily, be able to remember things longer term, and in general just help your brain take in information faster and retain it longer. Throughout the video today, I've got a couple of things that I'm going to ask of you. Please remember that our brains have plasticity. This means that our brains can grow and develop over time, over the course of our lives. And the great thing is we actually have the ability to impact that. We have the ability to help our brain grow and expand and learn new ways of doing things. The second thing I want to start off with here is learning how you learn actually can help you learn better. What I mean by that is striving to learn. When we have flashbacks of when we went to school, when we were younger and we were struggling to try to remember things, that process of striving to learn actually makes our brains work better and stronger. The third thing I wanted to start off with before we jump into really learning about how to hack our brain is asking yourself, what do you say to yourself about how you learn? So one thing that I sometimes hear from my students is, I never can learn, or I really struggle with learning choreography, or I'm never going to figure this out, I'm never going to remember how to do this. That mindset can actually set you back from learning effectively. What I want for you to think about as we go through all the content we're going to be talking about in this video is a growth mindset. What do I mean by that? It means focusing on improving. So if you haven't learned something effectively in the past, that's okay. You're going to learn how to do that. And in the process of learning about learning, you're going to actually help yourself by being more positive about it. Looking for solutions and not just giving up and saying, I can't learn choreography, or I can never remember these rhythms, I'm never going to get this. You're setting yourself up for failure if you think that way. Our brains are amazing. They can process so much information, and we just have to figure out how to feed that information to them. And that takes me to the last thought before we get started into our really specific hacks for today, is that everyone has different preferences for how they like to learn. We're going to get into learning about how you prefer to learn next. So what I like for you to do is grab a piece of paper and a pen. Now you're going to need it. So if you don't have anything in front of you that you can jot down some notes on, please pause this video, go grab a piece of paper and a pen, and come back. I will wait. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to look at is a list of items. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to read through this list of items, and I want you to memorize them. Now, don't write them down, that's cheating. I want you to memorize as many of these as you can. All right, are you ready? Here we go. All right, next up, I'm going to say a series of words. I want you to listen to the words and try to recall them in just a few minutes, okay? Are you ready? The first word is hand, boat, idea, dog, carrot, sing. Next up, I'm going to say some words and I want you to actually repeat them out loud after I say them. Ready? Here we go. Lake, hip, couch, fun, cat, free. Our last round here, before we do our recall process, I'm going to do 6 poses with my arms. I would like for you, as I do them, to also do them. Are you ready? Here we go. And now it's time to see what you can remember. So first, I'm going to give you a few seconds. I would like for you to write down all of the items, the words and shapes that you can recall that we did in round 1. All right, now, are you beating yourself up already? Don't beat yourself up. This is an adventure. We're learning how you learn best, all right? So next up, I would like for you to write down as many of the first series of words that you can remember that I said, but that you did not repeat. So that first series of words, how many of those can you remember? Next up, write down the words that you repeated after me. How many of those can you remember? And finally, I'd like for you to go back through and try to mimic as many of the poses that we did together as you can remember. So now I'm going to go through and show you the answers because I know some of you are probably sitting there getting super stressed out about this. There's nothing to be stressed out about. So first, the words and shapes. How many did you get right? Next, the first word series, the ones that I said. Next, the words you repeated after me. And finally, a quick look at our poses that we went through. So which ones were you able to remember best? Were you able to remember best by seeing or reading? Were you able to remember best by hearing? Were you able to remember best by saying things, or were you best able to remember by acting them out? This is a clue to how you may prefer to learn. Now, this is not by any means an exhaustive test, and there's actually a lot of research still being done on how the brain works. As you can imagine, brains are very, very complicated things, and there's a lot of scientific research being done on how people learn. But this is a good way to get started with this discussion of figuring out how your brain likes to work best. So if you learn best by looking at something or by reading, you're probably a visual learner. You may prefer pictures or you may prefer words. Either way. If you remember more of the words that I said, then you're probably an auditory learner. Now, closely tied with the auditory learner is the person who remembers by speaking out loud. And then we have our kinesthetic learners. What that means is there's someone who remembered the poses most easily, someone who remembers by acting things out or doing things in the body.